Now, good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen of the media, senior management of the African Development Bank Group, Director of Communications of the African Development Bank Group, distinguished colleagues, friends, good morning again and welcome. I am delighted to host you today for this media welcome breakfast to kick off the 2025 annual meetings of the African Development Bank Group. 10 years ago, right here, I stood before many of you for the very first time, newly elected as president of the African Development Bank Group. Today, I welcome you not only to the 2025 annual meetings, but also to the final chapter of a remarkable decade of transformation. This morning, I am especially pleased to share this moment with every single one of you. This session is not just about tradition. It is one of my favorite moments of every annual meeting of the African Development Bank. As always, it gives me an opportunity to speak openly, frankly, reflect deeply, and to thank you most sincerely. Now, over the years, you have told the story of the African Development Bank Group. You have held us to account. You have shared our triumphs and times of our trials. You have been part of this journey. It's a family engagement time. Now, let me start by simply saying thank you. Merci beaucoup pour être là aujourd'hui. Dans un nombre, avec votre nombre assez large comme ça aujourd'hui. Merci beaucoup, because we are here to launch these final annual meetings of my tenure. Ça veut dire que c'est la dernière rencontre pour moi en tant que président de la Banque Africa Développement d'avoir cet engagement avec vous dans les médias avant la fin de mon mandat en tant que président de la Banque africaine de développement. This year's annual meetings are particularly meaningful, not just for me, but at the end of this week. The bank's shareholders will have elected a new and the next president of the African Development Bank Group. It marks a moment of renewal, transition, and continued ambition. Ladies and gentlemen, leadership may change, but our mission endures. The bank's compass is steady. Our sails are strong. And our commitment to Africa's development is unwavering. Now, it is hard to believe how swiftly time has passed. When I was elected in 2015, I was just sitting on the table with one of the folks from the media houses who reminded me that in 2015 she looked at my photograph and I had no gray hair at all. And that she looked at my photograph recently, and I have quite a lot of gray hair coming up. Actually, every strand of gray hair speaks of excitement and of satisfaction. Gray and satisfied from 10 years of unrelenting drive to push Africa forward. Gray and satisfied from our tireless efforts to turn the bank into a globally respected financial institution, where it was ranked as the best multilateral financial institution in the world. Gray hair, yes, but satisfied from leading the bank to achieve the largest capital increase in its history, raising the capital of the bank from $93 billion when I started in 2015 to $318 billion today, an unprecedented achievement. Gray and satisfied, from leading the bank to achieve the highest replenishment of the African Development Fund in the history of the fund since its establishment in 1973, as we successfully raised $8.9 billion for its 16th replenishment. Gray in the hair, but satisfied. From working side by side with my staff to lead on global financial innovations, such as the launch of the hybrid capital instruments and synthetic securitization, becoming the first ever multilateral financial institution to do so globally. Gray in the hair, yes, but satisfied. From our collective effort to ensure that we serve the people of Africa with passion, with dedication, with accountability, to help Africa develop with pride. I remember vividly my first bank meeting in September of 2015. I said to the boards of directors and staff of the bank that I would take the African Development Bank Group on a transformation journey to become Africa's foremost development institution. Not just a lender of money, but a lifeline. Not just numbers, but lives. Je voudrais préciser ça parce que c'est très important pour le dire en français. Parce que ce n'est pas juste les chiffres qui comptent. C'est l'impact de notre travail dans les vies quotidiennes de notre population. Au commencement de mon mandat, j'étais dans les salles de conseil d'administration de la banque. J'avais précisé pour tout le monde. Les gens qui sont pauvres dans l'Afrique ne sont pas dans ces salles. Les enfants qui n'ont pas à l'école ne sont pas dans ces salles. Les gens qui veulent l'eau et l'assainissement, ils ne sont pas dans ces salles. Et les femmes qui veulent avoir un épanouissement ne sont pas dans ces salles. Mais il faut qu'on écoute. Il faut qu'on l'amène, l'espoir, ici dans notre salle. Il faut qu'on travaille en tenant compte de leurs besoins quotidiens, chaque jour, avec accélération. Je vous avais dit plusieurs fois, ça c'est pas boulot pour moi, il n'y a pas aucun boulot. Hein. Je dirige une équipe fantastique. Chaque jour, on met les besoins, l'espoir des populations africaines au sein de notre travail chaque jour. C'est ça qui compte pour moi. Donc, ce n'est pas juste les chiffres, ce sont les vies transformées. Ce sont les choses qui comptent pour moi le plus. So today, we have become a people-centered bank, Africa's Development Solutions Bank. As we set sail in 2015, we launched the bank's strategic high-five priorities to light up and empower Africa, to feed Africa, to industrialize Africa, to integrate Africa, and to improve the quality of life of the people of Africa. These high fives were the sails on our ship. Today, as we approach the shore of my 10 years as president of the African Development Bank Group, the sail on our ship remains high and strong. A short recap of the journey so far. Think about the following. 128 million people now have access to improved health services. And I think you should be clapping for that because these are not things you just find every single day. 121 million people now have access to improved transport. 104 million people are now food secure. 63 million people now have access to potable water. 34 million people now have access to improved sanitation. 28 million people now have access to electricity. And from the groundbreaking and unprecedented Mission 300 Energy Summit, jointly launched in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, by the African Development Bank Group, myself, and the World Bank, with its president, Ajay Banga, and other partners, another 300 million Africans will have access to electricity by 2030. These are not just figures. These are futures of people. These are, it's about hope that's been realized. Je dois dire quelque chose en ce qui concerne l'énergie, par exemple. Ici, en Côte d'Ivoire, j'ai fait une interview plus récemment avec RTE, et il y avait eu un monsieur qui s'appelle Antoine. Et M. Antoine vit dans une banlieue, en partie d'Abidjan. Il nous avait expliqué dans cet montage qu'il vivait dans l'obscurité. Il dormait dans l'obscurité chaque jour. Mais avec notre intervention pour électrifier l'Afrique et pour une intervention ici à Abidjan, aujourd'hui, lui, sa famille, son famille, avec tout le monde, pour avoir accès à l'électricité. Donc moi, je pense que le Mission 300, Mission 300, is the most important, the largest ever effort to provide access to electricity globally. And I'm proud that the African Development Bank, we're leading on this together with the World Bank to make it happen. In my trip to Lesotho 2 months ago, I was at a school called Sekete Primary School, where I got to see and feel the effects of our work on the lives and educational opportunities of children through the Lower Lesotho Water and Sanitation Project. Children now have sanitation, along with 30,000 people in the school district. Attendance has risen, and girls are now safer in schools. As I visited the only medical facility in the village, staffed by only one resident nurse, she showed me an old well where people will queue to fetch water. Today, thanks to the investment of the African Development Bank Group, every single household now has pipe-borne water. In a visit to a village in the Rift Valley of Kenya, I saw the power of change that access to electricity brings to villages through our work on the last mile connectivity project for energy, which pays for the cost of connecting poor households to the electricity grid. Now, as I walked towards the house of one of the beneficiaries, and her name happens to be Grace, and my wife's name is Grace. So I'm not talking about my Grace, it's a different Grace, but thank God for grace for everybody. And she was right in front of me, and she was asked, "Do you know the African Development Bank?" And she was asked again, "Do you know the president of the African Development Bank Group?" And I was standing beside her. And she said, "I do not know the African Development Bank. I do not know the president of the African Development Bank. All I know is that we are once in darkness, and now we have light." That right there is development. I see the impact of our work on the lives of people in Egypt. I was there recently, where today our work supporting the Gaba El Asfar, which is now the largest water treatment plant, not only in Africa, but also in all of the Middle East, that serves 12 million people, and is said to serve a total of 18 million people by 2040. I see the impact on our work. Si je prends le cas, par exemple, de notre investissement dans le pont de Sénégambie. Le pont de Sénégambie, c'est un pont qui relie les deux pays, le Sénégal et le Gambie. Bon, je vous dis, c'était un rêve pour les deux pays-là d'avoir ce pont depuis 1974. Il y avait plusieurs chefs de l'État, à chaque fois, ce n'est pas possible. Mais moi, je suis très fier que c'est avec l'intervention du Fonds africain de développement qu'on a pu construire ce pont magnifique aujourd'hui qui relie le Gambie avec le Sénégal. Et aujourd'hui, un voyage qui normalement prend peut-être 2 jours, ça s'est fait en 10 minutes, maximum 15 minutes. Voilà la transformation dont je parle. I see the impact of our work on the issue of food security. You all will remember during the war of Russia in Ukraine, it's still going on, by the way. But at that time, there was a lot of fear and anxiety about Africa. Why? Because Africa imports most of its wheat and most of its maize from Russia and Ukraine. And in fact, East African countries import about 90% of all of their wheat and maize from Russia and Ukraine. I didn't know that until there was this crisis. But there was going to be crisis, and you are the people in the media. Every time there was going to be crisis, there was going to be food crisis. And I said, no, we are not going to have any food crisis. Because we have a Feed Africa strategy that is working. We're not going to take bowls in hand and beg anybody in the world for food. We are going to put seed in those bowls and plant them by ourselves and make sure that Africa can feed itself. And that's exactly what we did. We set up a $1.5 billion emergency food production facility for Africa to do that. Remember, Africa was going to lose 30 million metric tons of food, 30 million, from both Ukraine and Russia. In 2 years since we started it, what happened? We were able to support 13 million farmers in 29 countries. They got access to improved seeds and fertilizers. And guess what? They produced 44 million, you heard me right, 44 million metric tons of food. And that is 14 million metric tons of food above the 30 million we were going to lose from the war from Russia and Ukraine. And that is also 116% above the target that we had set, and for a total value of $17.3 billion. If you don't clap for that, I don't know what else would ever get you excited. Because remember, what I'm telling you is an approach of an institution that wants Africa to develop with pride. Because you can't develop with pride if you can't feed yourself. That is the spirit. You know, when you buy a computer in those days, they put inside Intel inside, right? Intel inside. Well, I want you to know from today on, concerning the African Development Bank, know this, the spirit of it is Africa Pride inside. You're not excited about that? Okay. I am excited about that because there is no development that you can ever have without pride. The high fives have become the anchor of development across Africa. That is what bold leadership and responsive finance can achieve. They say the taste of the pudding is in the eating. If you want to know whether something is working, don't just read the news. I like the news, and you guys write great news. But just ask the people, they will tell you. That's exactly what we did when we began preparing our new 2024 to 2033 10-year strategy. Our boards of directors asked us to consult broadly, and so we did. We consulted with all of our 81 shareholder countries. We spoke to heads of state. We spoke to private sector. We spoke to civil society. We spoke to women, and we spoke to development partners. Their message was clear. Continue the high fives. Continue the high fives. It is clear, ladies and gentlemen, the high fives have become today the bedrock of transformation of African economies. They are no longer just priorities. They have become a movement. And please hear me clearly. I will tell you more about the impact of the bank over the last 10 years during the opening session of the annual meetings, which will be tomorrow morning. So please be sure that you are there, because you will hear a comprehensive report from me about the impact of the African Development Bank. The sails on the ship of the African Development Bank will continue to be hosted high, and will hold on strong to cope with any feisty winds on Africa's development pathway. As I prepare to pass the baton, I do so with confidence. I am proud to leave behind a very strong financial institution that can weather the storms, any storms ahead. We are leading global financial innovation today as an institution. We are deepening regional integration, and we are preparing Africa to lead on food security, energy access, digital transformation, and climate resilience. But we need partners. We need storytellers. We need you, the media. Your role, ladies and gentlemen, is more important than ever. You are not just observers, you are the amplifiers of Africa's voice. You shape the narrative, you challenge us, you inform the world. This week, we gather under the theme, Making Africa's Capital Work Better for Africa's Development. So over the next 5 days, we will host you to high-level dialogues, strategic policy conversations, knowledge events, tackling some of the most urgent and ambitious priorities for Africa, ranging from macroeconomic stability and domestic resource mobilization to energy transitions, food systems transformation, and climate finance. From the presidential dialogues that we will hear about tomorrow, to the launch of the African Economic Outlook, to thematic discussions on leveraging capital amidst economic headwinds and building stronger institutions, these annual meetings, ladies and gentlemen, will offer you powerful platforms to rethink how Africa mobilizes capital, how it retains capital, and how it develops using its own wealth to control and to shape its own future. We will welcome along with you over 5,000 delegates from 91 countries right here in Abidjan, including our governors, policymakers, private sector leaders, academics, civil society, and the media. And your reporting, your storytelling will be vital for the success of these annual meetings, because you help to shape those messages and how they reach the world and how the world engages with Africa. So I invite you wholeheartedly to walk this week with us, attend the sessions, as I know you will, ask the hard questions, as I know you will, and help us tell the real stories. Serving, ladies and gentlemen, I've been here, it's my 10th year of interacting with all of you in different sessions. On était à Zambie, on était en Corée, nous étions en Inde, nous étions en Égypte, nous étions au Maroc, nous étions ici, nous étions au Kenya, on était partout. Mais vous étiez là pendant toute l'Assemblée annuelle de la Banque africaine de développement. Mais pour terminer, je simplement voulais vous dire, c'était un plaisir, un grand plaisir. C'était le meilleur parti de ma vie, de pouvoir être donné la responsabilité, les ressources qu'il faut, la plateforme, d'aller changer le continent de ma naissance. Et j'avais fait ça avec tout mon corps, avec une équipe excellente de la Banque africaine de développement que je demande que vous applaudiez. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as president of the African Development Bank. It has been a decade of relentless purpose, of enduring passion, and of tireless service. And I thank you for walking this journey with me and all of my staff. To the next chapter of the Bank of Africa and our shared story, I raise a toast and a prayer for progress, a toast and a prayer for stronger partnerships with you all. And yes, just turn to the person next to you. Just turn to them. They're nice looking. Don't worry about it. Just turn to them and give them a high five and say, this one is to you. Thank you. And so let's make this week one that we will remember. High five again. Thanks a lot.